Hello, everyone. This is Deborah Boggs. I am CEO of DNS Executive Career Management, and we are bringing you the DNS Daily Career Brief. And today is Friday, March 13th, Friday the 13th. I'm going to call it a good thing, though, because we're headed towards spring. And I'm really excited about this conversation. Number one, Carmen Poff, our Director of Client Success, is with us today as she joins us most Fridays. Hi, Carmen.
Hello, hello. Yes, we're headed towards spring. I heard there were robins sighted in Maine, so it's not a false spring. It's actually a real spring. So
I deeply hope this is true because I know I talked to people earlier this week when we had our little 60-degree days, and people literally said things like, I have a renewed lease on life. My outlook looks brighter. I feel so much lighter today. So I know it's been a long, hard winter, and I, for one, am feeling it and cannot wait for sunshine and all of these things.
you and me both.
So you may notice Michelle Merritt is not with us today. She is taking a long weekend for her birthday weekend. So today's the last day of her being gone and us going rogue without her. But we wanted to chat a little bit about something we've been seeing both in the news and in our conversations with clients, and even my conversations with a group of college students last week, is networking into job opportunities. And so I know you saw an article about tech jobs, Carmen. I'd love for you to share that takeaway from that, and we can talk a little bit about what that means for everybody else.
Absolutely. I think people are realizing, and hopefully they've been realizing this for the past year and then some, that just hitting the apply now button's not working, and doing things the way that always worked before, it's not working anymore. And it's really come down to that networking. And so this article that I saw, this was about tech jobs, and generally in the tech industry, networking hasn't been something that people have relied on maybe as much, that you can just let that resume speak for you. But I love this quote that was in this article, and it said, we're watching two completely different job markets right now. One where strong engineers are fielding 4 or 5 offers at a time, while others are sending out hundreds of resumes with no response. And then he goes on to say that the big differentiator is having a strong network versus cold applying and hoping for the best. Networking might not be the path that tech workers are used to for finding a role, but it might be the only one available.
So true. And we're seeing this play out in real life, right? When these online applications are getting inundated with candidates, there's no way you're going to stand out. This is just a losing game right now.
Yeah. So I thought that was just worded so well when I read that. I was like, oh, okay, I need to share this.
Right. This is exactly what we're seeing in the market. Absolutely. It's interesting. So just today, I saw an article too that I thought, really spoke to that as well, because it was from Business Insider. And what's interesting is it was from Business Insider in Canada, but it so perfectly sums up what's going on in the US market as well. So the title of the article was Networking is Becoming More Important in Uncertain Job Market, but Job Seekers Struggle in a Digital World. And this is so true, in an uncertain job market. And that's exactly where we're finding ourselves in the US, is the uncertainty is what's slowing everything down. It's, companies still need to hire, but they are slowing the process down. They're making sure it's the right hire. They're being more picky. They're being more selective about who they bring on. And because of that, it's really done through personal networks and introductions to be able to skip the line and have a more meaningful relationship with a potential hire. And that's what's leading to these conversations. But if we're used to doing it online, or we've never had to go out and network before, it feels really uncomfortable. And it's something, we talk about a lot, but it's because it's uncomfortable for most people and they really struggle with it. And even, at every level. So I know I said earlier this week, but I was teaching a class for, I was asked to present to a group of college students this weekend. And the things that they asked about as far as networking is exactly the same questions we get from our executive clients. How do I find people? How do I reach out to them without being weird? How do I tell them what I want? Can I just reach out to someone if they don't already know me? It's interesting that things we struggle with are really across the board.
Right. It's almost human nature that we don't know quite how do we ask for something without just making it seem like we're asking for something.
Right.
How do you do that in a way that really gets that message across? And but do you feel like this is, I mean, we've seen it, of course, like you said, across the board, and we've known this for a while. Like, this is something anyone can do, right? It's not too late in your job
It's
search. Like, what if you've sent your resume out to so many people, you've gotten nothing
Mhm.
because you're just hitting apply now, apply now, apply now. How do you go back? How do you start over?
Yeah, it's not too late. In fact, it's better to start now than to continue down this path that is getting you nowhere. I know you say this to potential clients all the time, but if they're applying for hundreds of jobs online, can we agree that is not working?
I tell people, let's just stop. Time to pause. Time out.
Right. Yeah. So if this isn't working, then you may be afraid that the other option will fail, but what you're doing already is failing. So we have to
Right.
look at a different way. And that is, building and activating that network. If someone already has a deep network or they have a network they haven't reached out to in a while, we think about activating the network, meaning letting them know proactively what you're looking for, what you're available for, things like that. Restarting conversations with people, warming things up. But if you need to build a network, and people at all levels do, and that's okay, then we need to think about who we need to meet, who can open those doors for us. And I don't want you to think about your current network and say, okay, well, no one can hire me in my current network, because that's not actually how it works. It's more of those second and third degree connections that is where the magic happens. And so, if you're starting to maybe search in a new industry or for a new function, or you're struggling to get back into the industry that you recently left, thinking about attending conferences, attending webinars, things like that, where you can get in the room digitally or live, preferably, with people to make those human connections and start building a relationship. Have those conversations. Hey, would love to learn more about your work at XYZ because I'm open for something like this. But really, getting into the rooms and putting yourself out there in places where people can see you and get to know you, and you can make those connections. That can be done anytime. It doesn't have to be done. Granted, it's better if it happened 3 years ago, but if it didn't, start now.
Right. One thing Michelle always says this. I know she's probably said this on a lot of these calls, but she will say, ask who else you should know. Who else should I
Yes.
be talking to? That, see if you can make those connections that way as well.
Yeah, that question is so powerful to, excuse me, that question is so powerful to open those doors to people that you may not have gotten in front of.
Right.
And that's just a really important way to get to that second and that third degree connection, those people who know who you know.
We know that it's working, right?
Yes.
We know that it's working out there. I talk to people every day who are also in the interview process, and they're not getting those interviews by just just sending their resumes out cold.
They're not. And if they do, they're in a pile of 10 other people who are going through the interview process as well. And so their chances of actually landing that job are pretty slim. So, and I want you all to think about how you got your last job. This is something we think about all the time. People rely on online applications, but very rarely did people actually get a job through online applications. Even in previous times when it was easier to do that, it's really more about knowing someone who knew someone who needed this, things like that. So put yourself in the position to get found, to get noticed, to have those conversations. And that requires leaving the house on a cold March night and going to the thing, right? Like whatever the thing is,
right?
It's putting ourselves out there.
Well, it's how we met.
Thanks. It is, yes. We tell this story occasionally, but it's Carmen and I met by going out in the cold and doing the thing. Right. And we met through a mutual connection who was connecting, other people who you wouldn't think of would be how you'd find a job. And so I want you all to just remember that all of the people in your life can be that key to that. And we need to put ourselves out there and be with humans and start opening doors. So thanks all for joining us. That is how we'll wrap up this week. So this weekend, as you go to your yoga class or your kids' sporting event, or brunch with your friends. Tell them what you're looking for. Tell them what you need, and people will start to make introductions for you. So thanks all, and we will see you next week.
Take care.